Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Mark Bartlett, Vice President of Global Research and Development for Pharmanex. Today I'm excited to share with you all about the science of anthocyanins and metabolic health. You've probably never heard of anthocyanins, and you may also be wondering, what are we talking about when we say metabolic health? So let's start with some simple definitions. We'll start with metabolic health. Those of you who know me probably already know that I love biochemistry. It's the study of all of the chemistry of biological systems. In other words, the chemistry of life. And that's why I love this stuff. What could be more relevant to human health, right? And to put it most simply, metabolic health is about biochemistry. It's about the full range of biochemical reactions that are happening inside your body right now. If you have good metabolic health, it means that these biochemical reactions of life are within normal, healthy ranges of activity. What kinds of markers or indicators can tell you that you are metabolically healthy? I think you're already familiar with some of them. It includes indicators like blood pressure, blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, triglycerides. But being metabolically healthy impacts multiple areas of health and wellness, including our microbiome and gut health, vital organs like our liver and heart, and our body's inflammatory response, immune response, and metabolism. I think you're starting to get the picture that having good metabolic health is very important. So just remember, another term for metabolic health is body chemistry or biochemistry. Now these terms are all synonymous and they represent something vitally important. Metabolic health or body chemistry or biochemistry influences our overall health and how our bodies function. By now you might be asking yourself, am I metabolically healthy? Unfortunately, most of us do not have good metabolic health. In fact, a recent study showed that only 1 out of every 8 individuals has optimal metabolic health. That means 88% of us do not have optimal metabolic health. And this isn't just an issue in the United States where I live, because globally the rate of metabolic concern is also very high. One study estimated that over 1 billion people globally have metabolic issues, so something really needs to be done. Let's dig a little deeper and see what's causing this concern and see what we could do. Metabolic health is a spectrum, and there are a number of lifestyle choices that contribute to where we fall on this spectrum. The positive end of this spectrum includes exercise and being active, eating a healthy diet, being a healthy weight, getting enough sleep, eating a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, especially deep blue purple ones. The negative end of the spectrum includes factors like how much stress we are under or whether we smoke or not. None of us are perfect, but we can make lifestyle choices that help us shift towards being more metabolically healthy. These are all factors that are usually within our control. If we have a habit of incorporating these healthy lifestyle choices into our own lives, that helps us have good metabolic health. And if we have good metabolic health, our bodies are better able to respond to occasional poor lifestyle choices. An example of this is shown here. If someone ate food that had a lot of sugar in it, that sugar is absorbed into the bloodstream and triggers insulin to take it up into cells. Now, in a person who is metabolically healthy, a normal blood glucose response looks like this purple line on the graph. It has a small impact, but the body quickly returns to baseline. But if someone is not metabolically healthy, if they consistently make poor lifestyle choices, their response would look like this red line on the graph. Much higher impact, and it takes them longer to return to their baseline if they do at all. What this means is that someone who is metabolically healthy has greater metabolic flexibility or metabolic resilience. So good metabolic health has a protective effect against occasional poor choices, or in other words, it makes us more resilient or better able to recover from occasional poor choices. That means it's very important to be as metabolically healthy as you can be, so that you can worry less about the lifestyle factors that are sometimes out of your control. Now that we understand what metabolic health is, I want to pause and dispel some common myths about being metabolically healthy. Just because you're slim does not necessarily mean that you're metabolically healthy. Having a high metabolism doesn't necessarily mean you're metabolically healthy. And your modern lifestyle does not help us to be metabolically healthy. Nu Skin's approach is to target the sources of metabolic health rather than just focusing on the signs and symptoms. By targeting the sources, we're able to support our body's metabolic health better. Now about that word, anthocyanins. We've been working on something for the past 7 years that I'm excited to tell you about. But the short story is that we are now targeting these sources of metabolic health through a unique blend of very specific types of powerful ingredients from nature called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are responsible for the vibrant blue, purple, and sometimes red pigments in select fruits and vegetables. This includes foods like black currants, elderberries, blueberries, cranberries, and purple cabbage. We became interested in these purple superfoods several years ago when we noticed more and more mounting evidence from the scientific literature that they have a strong impact on the health of the friendly bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract. So we did our own human clinical study. We fed a good dose of anthocyanins to a group of healthy people, and we were looking for a positive impact on GI health. As usual, when we study humans, we always look at other health markers to make sure that the ingredients are completely safe. What are these health markers that we look at? None other than our old friends, the metabolic health biomarkers. Well, the study came back and we were delighted that the effects on the gut health looked great. But here's what really got our attention. The metabolic health markers that we were monitoring looked unexpectedly good. So good that we had to look again and look closer. We realized that we were onto something really powerful. Did we just discover an ingredient from nature powerful enough to improve metabolic health? Well, it was enough for us to change our focus and our direction, and let me share with you the rest of the story. Maybe one reason that we're seeing evidence of such an impact of anthocyanins is about the levels. Nutritionists often advise people to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, but the data show that we're not eating much of these purple foods. People just aren't getting a lot of anthocyanins through diet alone. In fact, the daily average anthocyanin intake globally is less than 25 milligrams. Our research indicates that the health benefits of anthocyanins are associated with a reasonable daily dose of around 215 milligrams. Clearly, most people are not eating this amount every day. When we looked at the third-party research on anthocyanins, we found that they had impacts on many different tissues throughout the body. Anthocyanins have an impact on biological effects in fat tissue, in muscle tissue, pancreas, and liver, to name just a few. For example, anthocyanins increase biomarkers of insulin sensitivity in fat tissue, and they decrease oxidative stress and fat accumulation in the liver. They also increase glucose uptake and carbohydrate metabolism in muscle, and decrease blood lipids in the pancreas. These are all examples of biomarkers of metabolism, and these changes are example of a shift towards a healthier metabolic state. And what's interesting is when we look at the effects of some of the other lifestyle choices that impact metabolic health, we see similar patterns that support good metabolic health overall in these same tissues. This heat map shows a sampling of the metabolic pathways and biological effects of a metabolically healthy lifestyle choice. In this case, we used exercise in different tissues in the body. And as you can see by the similar colors on the heat map, an anthocyanin-rich diet has a very similar type of benefit to other metabolically healthy lifestyle choices. It helps shift your body's biochemistry in the same direction to a healthier mode. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that anthocyanins don't replace these other healthy lifestyle choices. Rather, anthocyanins complement them. For example, exercise alone has some benefits, and adding in anthocyanins supports these benefits, in some cases providing even more benefits. These are all very supportive and complementary in further supporting you on your journey to the best version of yourself. So what have the scientists at Nu Skin been doing with anthocyanins over the past 7 years? For starters, we've conducted several studies. I already mentioned that one landmark human study that caused us to rethink the amazing benefits that anthocyanins had to offer. This one study is really what led us to our understanding of how anthocyanins affect metabolic health. But we had a lot of work to do to fill in the gaps and better bolster the evidence. So we conducted a series of studies looking at the chemistry of anthocyanins, as well as the impact that anthocyanins might have on a wide range of health effects in cell studies, animal studies, and human studies. We looked at both short and long-term effects of taking these compounds. First, we had to dig into the chemistry of anthocyanins. The word anthocyanins is actually a term that encompasses many different members of a family of bioactive molecules that are all related, with colors from red to blue to purple. We analyzed over 10 different anthocyanin plant extracts and then tested 7 of these in our screening study. These included blackcurrant, crowberry, black rice, wild blueberry, bilberry, domesticated blueberry, and red grape. So which members of the anthocyanin family were most effective? In our study, we measured how each type of anthocyanins affects cells when they are put under stress. This study was done in vitro using cells that line the inside of the intestine. We wanted to see which anthocyanins protected against the negative effects of a stressor. In the graph here, the higher the bar graph, the more protection that type of anthocyanin had. This study led us to understand that 2 members of the anthocyanin family were the most powerful. In case you're curious, their names are cyanidin and delphinidin. Cyanidin and delphinidin showed higher cellular protection than other anthocyanins tested. You can see here the purple bars are higher than all the others. These are the bars representing cyanidin and delphinidin. Again, the most effective at protecting intestinal cells. So we learned that the type and color of anthocyanin can play an important role in metabolic potential of the ingredient. Now we were in a position to select plant sources of those very anthocyanins which were most effective. That's why the 3 sources of anthocyanins we selected to study were blackcurrant, bilberry, and black rice. Once we determined the optimal sources of anthocyanins, the next step was to test it in an animal model. We conducted this study in healthy mice. We wanted to look at how the anthocyanin blend affected the gastrointestinal tract, so we looked at 2 main areas. The first is something called intestinal permeability, which is a way to measure how many harmful compounds can get through the intestines into the body. We want intestinal permeability to be low because that's healthier. These top 2 graphs show that anthocyanins help to decrease intestinal permeability, which is exactly what we had hoped to see. The second area we looked at is gut bacteria. We wanted to see if anthocyanins would decrease bad bacteria and increase the good bacteria. And that's what these 2 graphs on the bottom show. We saw that anthocyanins decreased the ratio of bacteria measured on the left graph, which is a good thing, lower is better for this one, and they increased the good bacteria on the right graph, which is also good. Together, these graphs demonstrate that the anthocyanins protect the gastrointestinal tract. This shows us a little bit of insight into how these anthocyanins may work in the body. The next study we did looked at other parameters, not just gastrointestinal health in mice, and this is where the results got really interesting. These top 2 bar graphs show the impact of anthocyanins on glucose metabolism. Both graphs show that taking anthocyanins improved glucose metabolism. And we also saw that liver health improved with anthocyanins as well. These pink images at the bottom are images of liver tissue, and the white circles are fat cells. Fewer fat cells are better because we don't want fat to be stored in our liver. These pictures show that anthocyanins decrease the fat cells in the liver, which is just one example of how anthocyanins can support liver health. This study shows that the benefits of anthocyanins are not just tied to the gastrointestinal tract. These results indicate it's much, much more than that. Glucose metabolism and liver health are biomarkers of metabolic health, and these data suggest that anthocyanins impact metabolic health in many areas of the body. Okay, So we've shown great results in vitro and in animals, but what about in humans? This was an 8-week study done on generally healthy adults. They took anthocyanins along with a small amount of fiber, and we measured changes in gut bacteria, shown on the pie charts here. The ratio of these bacteria was dramatically shifted by the end of the study. And when we looked at how the ratio changed, it indicated improved GI health. So just like in the mice, we saw improvements in people's gastrointestinal health and gut microbiome. We also measured changes in blood sugar regulation, which is the bar graph here. We saw statistically significant improvements in this measurement, which was kind of surprising because the starting baseline was already in the healthy range. So it went from healthy to even healthier. This shows improvements in metabolic health in humans, even in an overweight but relatively healthy population. Finally, I want to share with you a short-term human study. In this study, 25 young, healthy individuals took anthocyanins at the same time that they ate a high-fat meal. This was just a single dose of anthocyanins, and the results were really interesting. On the bar graph, it shows that we saw a significant decrease in the inflammation and gut permeability in the GI tract. And on the line graph, you can also see a dramatic difference in glucose response over time following the meal. This whole study shows that the results we saw in mice translate over to humans very well, and support the idea that anthocyanins help with metabolic biomarkers as well as GI health. These data also show that the benefits provided by these anthocyanins start almost immediately, because we were able to measure short-term changes after just one time taking them. So these are the major findings from our unique science about the effect of anthocyanins. We learned what types and dose of anthocyanins were needed to get metabolic health benefits. We discovered that anthocyanins bolster metabolic health, like glucose, insulin, lipids, and organ health. It appears that they do this through influencing the gut microflora, acting as antioxidants and supporting a healthy inflammatory balance. And anthocyanins support both immediate and longer-term metabolic health, as seen in our human clinical studies. Anthocyanins have not largely been studied for their effects in metabolic health. So this is a relatively new area of research where we are breaking ground and discovering novel and important findings. The fact that third-party research also supports the benefits of anthocyanins on metabolic health in this new area of study for these compounds is even further confirmation of the benefits of getting these important compounds in the right amounts into our bodies. Our studies are on the cutting edge of anthocyanin research. We can leverage this science to shift our body's biochemistry. Anthocyanins work through supporting a healthy inflammatory balance, supporting healthy gut microbiome, and acting as antioxidants in the body, which has resulting impact on immunity, vital organs like the liver and heart, and improved metabolism. We've invested 7 years into the intensive scientific research on anthocyanins and metabolic health. This is truly a scientific breakthrough that we demonstrate the very best discoveries in our research and development. We believe this brand new approach will provide great opportunity in improving health. Thank you.